Welcome to Fan4Racing Radio. I'm Fan4Racing Sharon, and joining me tonight are Jay Huseman and Chris Crichton. We're here for our Hot Topic Sound Off segment. Let's see. JGR Dust Up. Oh, that didn't come out quite right. I left off a couple of pieces to it. But it's the Dust Up, the Rumors, and what was my third one? Dust Up, Rumors, and Ram Drivers. So with that, everybody, let's get started with our hot topic. The first thing, as always, how was the racing this time at New Hampshire for the NASCAR Truck and Cup Series, and also at Salem for the ARCA Menards Series? So, Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think it was just the truck race and the cup race that I caught this weekend. I don't know. I've just never been a fan of seeing the same driver win over and over again. Same song, second verse. It's about like pop music back in the 90s. All the songs sounded about the same. And kudos to Corey Heim. Thank you for making the truck series boring. You're having an extravagant year, absolutely season to remember, a career year. Let's hope that he can continue. It kind of feels like the ARCA series. Like we've seen this years and years in the ARCA series where one certain team goes out and kind of dominates the year and the rest of them are kind of pickled about throughout the season. But Corey Heim has just been absolutely flawless in this 2025 truck series season. For the cup side, I really thought it was a good race. I think we had all that we were looking for. When you sit down and calculate what's a good race and what's not, we had a little bit of drama. We had a little bit of teammate drama going on. Of course, we had a winner. Of course, we had a winner. But outside of that, we've got a lot to talk about, especially, the situation between Ty Gibbs and Denny Hamlin. Is that really a time where you race somebody like that? I mean, Denny Hamlin obviously felt that Ty Gibbs was in the way, but what if Christopher Bell had gotten caught up in that wreck and ruined his chance for, a playoff? We don't know what's going to happen the next two races.
It's on our list. It just started a domino effect of a lot of bad things. So, Blaney come out and he blistered it. This is right about the time that Penske normally rises. Okay.
So not really surprised by that, but
okay, keep going. It's just that we have the JGR Dust Up on our list.
Yeah,
so
well, I mean,
right now we're just talking about the
racing. That's fine. We'll go back to that. I'm not trying to spend very much time on that. I definitely just wanted to point out the fact that was definitely something that intrigued a lot of race fans, and definitely something that's going to bring in a pretty decent topic here in a little bit. But Ryan, I'd just gone to Ryan Blaney and his finish. So Penske had just showed up. I'm not really sure where I missed the cue on that. Hendrick was there. They were, competitive. They had a couple of chances to maybe win the race. But the Penske Ford seemed to be a little bit stronger. This has been a track over the last few years. It's been kind of a Ford dominant racetrack. I was actually surprised to see the Hendrick cars run as well as they did there based off of years past. It's kind of been a Ford dominant racetrack. So, but Josh Berry, I think he was kind of the surprise of the evening. We expected Josh to be strong in some racetracks. When you looked at the top three there for a little while, it was, it felt like it was all Penske and Wood Brother. And then you just have to scratch your head and ask, where was Austin Cindric? Why was he so far off the pace and not in the mix? So all in all, I give it a, look, when I give something an A minus, I must have really enjoyed the race because, as you guys know, over the last year, I'm pretty critical of what I'm racing, what I'm watching, and how I find it to be entertaining. If you can have me screaming at the TV, I think that's a pretty entertaining race. And there was a couple of times where, I was hollering at the TV, especially with the boneheaded move that we'll talk about earlier. I'm going to call it now. It was a boneheaded move. It was unjustifiable. It's you're racing a teammate, and you could have costed your other teammate, but we'll definitely save that one for a little bit. As I was going to pass the baton, somebody has logged out. So how
Yeah,
about
we
you, Miss
lost.
Sharon? What did you think?
We lost our guy. Okay, I thought the racing was pretty good all weekend. I know a lot of people are a little frustrated with Corey Heim winning so much, but he is kind of making history. He's tied now with Greg Biffle for 9 victories on the season. Greg Biffle was the last guy to do it back in 1999. That's how long it's been since we've had something like that. So it is kind of interesting. I hope Jay didn't lose his internet again. This seems to happen. Anyway, I do hope that I think as we're watching this happen, it seems to make it a little bit boring, but at the same time, I want to try to appreciate the fact of what Corey Heim is accomplishing, because he's accomplishing a great deal in a banner year for himself. But I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, he says his internet's going to be his hot topic when he gets back. So I had a feeling it might be the internet. So yeah, that is kind of interesting to see it happen. I think he's going to make it 10 before the season's over. I think he's going to make history and break that record. He's been breaking all kinds of records all season long. So like I say, I have to remind myself too to try to appreciate what's happening for him as a banner year for his career. With regard to the ARCA Racing Series, kind of the same thing. 7 wins now for Brenden Queen. He's won a lot of the races. It's a banner year for him. It's a breakthrough year. First year in the ARCA Menards Series, and he's doing really well. A lot of these tracks he hasn't raced at before, but he's coming out and winning these races. So kudos to him. I kind of feel for the other guys because it makes it really hard for them to come up and win those races. I do think NASCAR and the ARCA Menards Series needs to take a look at that, because I think overall, I think it's going to hurt the series because it, like you said, it happens year after year after year after year. One driver seems to come in and make a big splash on the scene. For the truck series, it's not like that every year. So, I see a little bit of a difference there. With regard to the Cup Series, I thought we saw some fantastic racing throughout the field and throughout the day. Penske was up there, but we had other drivers up there. I agree with you that Josh Berry was a little bit of a surprise when we looked at the stats and everything on Friday. Josh Berry was up there with his driver rating, but it was only 1 race compared to like 20 some odd races for the other drivers that we were comparing. So Jay is back. So I'm going to continue to give my thoughts, Jay, and then we'll go to you. But yeah, I thought the racing was really good in the Cup Series. And yeah, it seemed to be Penske dominated. And the reason Austin Cindric was back there is I don't think his qualifying did not go quite as well. I think he had to spend, somehow something happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but I heard them say in the broadcast that his qualifying was not as good. And so he was starting in the back of the field. So that's why I think he struggled a little bit. But I will say, it seemed like Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney were able to pass through the field. So I don't understand why Austin Cindric wasn't able to pass through the field. So Josh Berry was the surprise. Hendrick Motorsports, you mentioned them. Yeah, I was not expecting Hendrick Motorsports to do as well as they did. I know Taz picked Larson as part of his garage picks, his 5 garage picks. I did not, because I wasn't expecting Hendrick to do that well. And they surprisingly did rather well. So they found something and made a little bit of a breakthrough there. I thought that was good, because I do like seeing the competition on the track. And I know we're going to talk about the JGR Dust Up later, so I'm going to save my comments for a little bit later. But Jay, what are your thoughts with regard to the racing this weekend?
Well, mine might stray off topic too, but it's about my darn internet. The other day we did something at 2 p.m. and it reset then on me. So I don't know what's up with it, but the racing, and I didn't catch all of yours, Sharon, obviously just the last little bit, but going back to as Chris was talking, it is really tough. And I know I'm one that tells fans to appreciate greatness in the making, but I fully understand when it comes to the truck series, the lack of desire. Again, try and watch. I know this sounds simple, but watch second on back for the rest of the race. Corey Heim seriously has been, and I understand that viewpoint, but I do appreciate the history that he is making. He is now the record holder by himself. I'm sorry, the 9 is what tied him with Greg Biffle. Okay. Right. So the 9 tied him with Greg Biffle. I do think he may end up holding the record by himself. But, yeah, when it comes to that, it is tough. I know on the cup level, we go back to Jimmy Johnson when he was winning championships. I get it. And this is one of the more dominant. I know William Byron's come through and won quite a few. When Kyle Busch runs, they're pretty much a given, if you will. But I still find value in the truck series. I saw a lot of good things in action going on. Chandler Smith, whether or not he could, because he pretty much had to win it. He didn't quite have enough points after the rough start. So, like I said, I find value in it and watch the rest of it. But I do understand where people get frustrated and want to tune out because it's a given of who's going to win, if you will. What really is really scary, if you think about it, we've talked about it all year long. How many got away from him that he did win, just didn't get the checkered flag for it, due to other issues. So going to the Cup side, that one too, I thought was a great race. And I heard both of you talking about that, the mixture of what maybe we weren't expecting. I don't know about, and I'm trying to think back when Sharon and I did the preview and what they talked about on the fantasy preview. It certainly was not listed as a Chevy track or hasn't been for a while. Really thought the Toyota mix would have been at the front, not for 11th and 12th where it happened. But certainly Christopher
Bell would have finished higher.
Exactly, and I know his majority of his success has been Xfinity, but that has carried over to the Cup level. To see the Fords, yeah, we hadn't really fully seen it and certainly didn't expect it necessarily from Josh Berry, although, again, he comes from the short track background. That was a little surprising and kind of actually rooting for him. Kind of upset the apple cart if you get the non-playoff driver, a driver that's already been booted out of this round, to pick up a win. I just like that mix-up, if you will. And for Wood Brothers, I mean, for them to get 2 wins in a season, I know I heard that today of how many years it's been since they've gotten 2 wins in a season, would be history-making from that aspect. So I thought it was a good mix and obviously provided what New Hampshire does, and that's provide some good storylines. Unfortunately, as I listened all day today, I think they talked about the racing once or twice. Other than that, it was other topics, primarily one. The Salem race, same thing. You got Brenden Queen, strong driver, of talented driver coming through. And sometimes it does look like that, of almost as if a cup driver were to go down and run against the rookies and I hate to say minor leaguers, but that's kind of what it looks like, So we know that they are going to advance and step up. I think that's on our list down the road too. He's running for Kaulig Racing, to see him get these opportunities and see where he ends up next year. Again, you got to, I guess, just appreciate the fact that that's where they got their start. You see them at the beginning of the greatness and then have to endure while they run it out.
Okay. Follow up, Chris?
Yeah, Butterbean, great slide there. I've been watching Butterbean since he was on Flow Racing. I think racing at Stafford Motor Speedway, and a few of those others down the East Coast line, Bowman Gray. He got the announcers excited, and on Flow Racing. Like, there's just something special about that kid that kind of gets everybody riled up for him. Which is very unusual. Like, typically, we had a whole slew of drivers that came through about, 10, 12 years ago that were, just now cutting their teeth in the lower ranks. And I guess there was so many of them that none really stood out from the other. William Byron was able to squeak his way in. Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney. When Tommy Baldwin signed Ryan Blaney, I thought, oh, look at this next kid, this Nepo baby, that's going to get a ride. And I've never even heard him win a late model race. And boy, I was wrong. You're looking at a champion and a NASCAR Cup champion. But we've heard a lot about this kid, Butterbean Queen. And so he is definitely leaving his mark in the ARCA series, which is great because most of them just have a flash in the pan moment and they go on about their career and they really don't make anything of it. I think that Butterbean and Cletus McFarland, these are two people right now that really just grab the audience and fans just like cheering for them. And I think that that's something that racing needs beautifully. It's so hard to call out who's really carrying the empire these days. Is it Chase Elliott? Is it Kyle Larson? Who's carrying the torch? We've had the superstars of the past, the Gordons and the Johnsons and the Earnhardts. But who is the Earnhardt of this era? Who is the Gordon of this era? And I think that we may have a lot of drivers that are trying to fill that spot, but we have no specific driver that we really says just stands out amongst it. But I think that driver's coming. I'm not saying it's going to be a Cletus McFarland, but it could definitely be a Butterbean Queen. So there's his five good minutes of me talking a lot of good stuff about him and what he's been able to do and to push on further through this with the talk of Barry. I really was Josh Berry, as those closing laps were there. I was asking myself, and I know the announcers were talking about, is it going to be team orders? Is he going to just fall in behind Blaney? And we didn't see that at first, and I don't know if maybe Barry didn't back off eventually and just let it be. But it looked as though Josh Berry had the go signal to track down Blaney there at the end. It just, he just did not quite have the car to do it. So I think with Barry being in the Cup Series, I was probably his biggest fan the last few years. And another guy that the fans really get behind. And these, what I'm trying to correlate here is there's been a lot going on in the late model world over the last 10 years. And I think that late models racing itself in the asphalt world has gotten more popular, where we've just always heard about, the Snowball Derby and a couple of other races. Now we've been given a platform to actually follow these guys. And of course, Josh Berry's career, spent 10 years in late model stocks. And now, has over the last 5 years worked his way all the way to the Cup level and contending for wins. He's another driver that, you just have to wonder, if maybe one day we're not seeing, the future of racing right there with Barry and his finishes here of late. So, because I mean, look, if you don't think that the guy's got enough talent to carry a race team, you're crazy. And if he can do what he can do in the Wood Brothers car, just imagine what he could do in the number 2 Penske machine or the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing machine or something to that, one of these top tier rides. So outside of those two topics, and I believe the Hendrick deal with Bowman, unfortunately, I think he got caught up in some stuff early. But there was Sean Van Gisbergen that I wanted to talk about
Shane.
because Shane Van Gisbergen, because look, he's really not had much of a year at these short tracks or anything like that. And I think we just seen this past weekend probably his best all around performance. It just didn't end that way. He definitely had a fast race car, and I'm not sure if we can point to maybe Trackhouse having a little bit figured out there at that racetrack, or if it's just maybe Shane Van Gisbergen's actually starting to come around a little bit and starting to figure this out. But all in all, I think he had a great run, and I want to go to you guys and find out what y'all think.
Yeah, I really was happy to see Shane Van Gisbergen for the first stage. It seemed like he was up in the top 5 for a good part of the race, and maybe even part of the second stage. I was excited to see that, and it did show that he has been a student this season and that he's been learning and getting better on the ovals. Again, I think he'll get even better and be able to close it out as time goes on. We're just watching his evolution as he is going through each of these tracks and what the differences are and all of that. So that was exciting to watch. With regard to, I did see Blaney. An interview with Blaney today. I guess I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just thought that the racing was really, really good. Oh, the personalities, that's what I wanted to talk about. You talked about Brendan McQueen and Corey Heim and, some of these late model drivers. And I think that's what we need. I think we need to bring some of these drivers, more of these drivers, into the ARCA Menards series. Bubba Pollard used to visit the ARCA Menards series now and then, and that was fun to see. Derek Thorne used to come and race in the ARCA Menards series, and that made it kind of exciting to watch. And as a development series, you need that. You need to have some of these stars come into these series and race them, because that's how these younger drivers learn and progress in their careers. So I really would like to see that. And even the Cup Series, we're not seeing as many of the Truck Series drivers, Xfinity Series drivers, or even Cup Series drivers come into the ARCA Menards series and race. And I would like to see more of that as well, especially at the partnership tracks. So if we could get more of that, I think it would help those series. They need help right now. And they need more competition. There's not enough competition. One of the things that I really like about the ARCA West series right now is that there's like 5 drivers that could win the race sometimes when we go to these tracks. Jake Bowman's, there's been a variety of drivers that have won the races, is what my point is. And you see that in the ARCA West series. So I'd like to see more of that moving forward. And I hope ARCA and NASCAR get their heads together and brainstorm how we can make the racing better in the ARCA Menards East and West series. But I thought the racing, the tire was good. We did see the fall off. I thought all of that was really good in the racing at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We saw passing. Not everybody was able to pass, but we did see passing throughout the field. And I thought that was a good thing. And one thing I do like that's happening in the Cup Series, and it shows that they are the best of the best, if you will, is that I think we're seeing fewer accidents. We're not seeing no accidents, but we are seeing fewer accidents than what we've seen in the past. And I think that's a good thing. I heard somebody talk about it. Oh, I know who it was. We had an interview with Jan Quackenbush today, and he talked about how he really reinforces with his drivers the importance of not wrecking one another, of going out there and really showcasing their skills and being competitive, good, hard racing, but being respectful of one another and how much it costs to replace these machines. So, and I liked that, hearing that from a team owner, because I think that is important. You can respect one another and still race hard with one another without wrecking each other. And we'll talk more about that later, but I really thought it was great to hear that from the team owner himself. Let's see, what else did I want to say? That's all I can think of right now, but you said pretty much the same thing that I did, Jay, with regard to the racing and Josh Berry. I thought it was really good to see Josh Berry have a good race, especially after the couple of races that he had before. It was really good to see him have a good run. And yeah, Wood Brothers needs Josh Berry. I think he's been good for that organization. So Jay, we'll go to you now.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a negative point, but I think he set a new record of finishing last in every race of the first round. You know, I mean, you just can't recover from that. Same with Chandler Smith in the Truck Series. 30th or worst in the first two. A second place wasn't going to get it for him as far as points. So that was unfortunate. Two or three things tie into what both of you are talking about here when it comes to the appeared dominance and then lack of appeared competition. One of the things, and I know on SiriusXM they talked about this, of the vehicle basically being almost indestructible. I know NASCAR is working on the tire wear, so you have to go back to managing tires. But you don't see the blown motors or parts failures like you used to. So that's where it kind of makes it even more so appear dominant, because in the past, somebody that was, say, full throttle, as we see Corey Heim, they'd have even more, and he had his share this year. And I know I take Ryan Blaney, and that's where I look at what's really impressive with Ryan Blaney. I know he is now for top fives by himself as far as most top fives on the year in the Cup Series, but he also has, I think it's 7 DNFs. And he said that all along. He was more than thrilled with where he entered the playoffs because they had the 7 DNFs. That shows you the true absolute talent. He's not getting a win or whatever and riding around then in 20th and riding on that. So I think that's something that I think maybe needs to be looked at as far as giving teams that little bit of horsepower. I'm not saying give them it all back, but do allow some of that where you have the possibility of a motor issue. Not that I want to see anybody blow a motor, but that adds to the intrigue of the race of, hey, they're running really hard. Can it sustain? You mentioned SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, and I'll give Chris props for that, bringing him up, because that actually had slipped my mind, and he really does deserve a shout out for the race he had there on the oval. And yes, it is, as a team they're growing. He as a driver is learning and getting accustomed, so I thought it was great. Again, was it the best result? No, but we saw the improvement. We've shared the stats on that of his improvement from first half to second half of the year when it comes to ovals. And Chris was getting me fired up for one of our future topics. We'll come back to the name Cletus McFarlane. As far as then just the outright racing, again, I did think the mix, and I was looking through, yeah, you had Ford, Chevy, Toyota. it seems like Toyota actually, at least in the finishing order, slipped back a little bit. I know they were still in the mix and their presence was felt, but maybe not like we thought it would, where the other manufacturers would be trying to knock them off the top spot. Ford, especially Penske, this is the time of year. I mean, we've seen it the last 3 years. It's the playoffs. They got a couple teams in there. They turn up the wick, it's time to go, and they go. So we'll see how it plays out through the rest. But yeah, I was really thrilled overall, like I said, with Josh Berry. Again, did he get the win? No, but he showed that there was a reason he was in the discussion throughout the year.
Jay, I don't know if you saw this, but I found that this was on
Okay, I knew there were a couple of them together when we did the preview, so he's by himself now with 13.
Okay, and All Sports All Day showed up. He says, "What's
up? Hey, what's up?"
So Ryan Blaney with 13, but Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin right behind him, and then Kyle Larson there in with 11. William Byron, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott. These are your top contenders this year, and these are streaks of top 5. So that's pretty cool to see that happening. All right, let's go ahead and yes, it is.
I got one final thought, if I can.
Sure.
Sharon, you mentioned something about allowing the Cup Series drivers to race the other series, and I wanted to put my 2 cents into that. I do not want Cup Series drivers invading into the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. I have my reasons for it. It made for boring racing. It basically kept these guys from being able to make a name for themselves. And if you want to market future drivers, I really feel like there is a need to limit the Cup drivers from being able to take the spotlight away. But I am very, very open to allowing the Cup guys to race the ARCA series in as many races as they feel they want to. And the reason behind that is, if you want true driver development,
yes,
then that is where you can get it at. And so once they graduate out of the ARCA series and into the trucks and into the Xfinity series, you want them to be able to spread their wings and fly. But I could see, in order to market the ARCA series and get it out of the slum that it's been in for the last, since NASCAR took it over, and I think for a couple of years there behind that as well. It's kind of been a so-so song between the Venturini group and the TRD development guys. They've kind of had it sewed up for a while now. But if you were allowing the Cup Series guys to come in and kind of just put their hands in the ARCA series, I think that first of all, you would see a lot less of the races that you just can't even watch because it's nothing but wrecks. But you would start building that respect at a very young age. So, I don't know what you guys think about that, but I would definitely still vote to limit the Cup Series guys in the Xfinity Future O'Reilly Racing Series and the Craftsman Truck Series, but very, very open to the ARCA Series. What are you guys' thoughts on that before we close that one out?
Well, before we go there, I want to say All Sports All Day says I was at the race. It was really good. I just think last year was a bit better. So I thought that was a good comment. And he agrees with our point, because I brought this up as well, that ARCA needs a change, a total change. I do think that they need to take a look at that and really look at some ways to revitalize the ARCA series. I think they've done good with what they've got. I don't think they're doing a bad job, but I think that there is room for improvement, and I do think that they need to kind of revamp that a little bit. With regard to
into the series,
pardon me,
brings more money into the series.
Yes. With regard to your comment, Chris, I do think that they've got kind of a sweet spot right now. Where they're limiting it to 5 races. I do think that it does help the development of both the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series when they bring the Cup Series drivers into those series, or Xfinity into trucks or so forth. And I think it's good for the Truck Series or Xfinity Series to once in a while race into the Cup Series again for development purposes. So I think that that's good. But I don't think this year in particular, we've seen as many people from outside of the series come into the ARCA Menards series and race. There's been a few like the home track guys that have come in and raced, and that's been really good when we see that, but it hasn't been that many races. We used to see more of the Cup Series guys, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Justin Allgaier. Some of those guys come back into the ARCA Menards series and race. And I think it does make those guys better drivers when they can race against some of those guys that have raced in that series before. All Sports All Day says this is probably ARCA's best year in a decade, which says something. But I do think that there's room for improvement. And yeah, they've had some good. I think the ARCA West has been the best when it comes to having more people getting wins throughout the year versus having one team kind of dominate. The ARCA West has had more winners this season, whereas the other two series, it's been just a handful of drivers that have really been winning all season long, or it's been the number 18 car with whoever's driving it getting the wins. So I would like to see a little bit of an overhaul and them to kind of do some things to revitalize that. So that's just my thoughts on it. Let's go to Jay. And before we go there, ARCA has been fun. West has been most competitive, and are we sure the East Series still exists? That's a good point. So Jay, I'm curious to hear your comments.
Yeah, well, there's a couple, and it seems like especially if you come from the Midwest to the East Coast, obviously you go through the East Series, but it's always been one, maybe two at a time in the year. Where in the West, it seems like there's 3 to 5 that are there all at the same time. And I think back to when I first really started working with Sharon, you had Todd Gillen out on the West, Harrison Burton on the East, and especially when they got to go head to head, that was the storyline.
That was fun.
I think that was some great battles. So something Chris said, I'm a little confused. You want the Cup drivers to go back into the ARCA series to beat up on the littlest guy, but train them. Right. And I agree with you. Okay, I follow you on that. But why can't they do that in the Xfinity and trucks? That's because where I don't understand.
Identity. Xfinity, they have an identity. Truck Series, they have an identity.
Okay, I heard your point. I'm trying to make mine. I heard your point. I'm trying to make mine.
Well, I thought you asked me a question. I'm sorry.
It was kind of a rhetorical, but I'm saying I feel like you're kind of contradicting yourself because they can do the same in the Xfinity and trucks. I am with Sharon. I do not want to see them go down there and run a full season or 20 out of 26 or whatever majority. I know that debate has come up again of changing the number of races they can run. I think they're in a fairly good spot. I wouldn't mind seeing it go maybe a little bit more than what it is, but I don't want to see it go back to even half the races. I like the fact that then they have to rotate, especially when it comes playoff times. One of the things that as y'all have driven on, I agree, getting something better going in the lower tier series, such as the ARCA Menards in the East and the West. It's not just about drivers, though. It's about the team owners. And I look at, say, Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity. When they branched out, they went to the late model side. Okay, if they'd have gone into the ARCA Menards side, we would see that. I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing is truly the only top organization whose pipeline runs all the way down to the ARCA Menards and the East Series. I think that's where it comes in. And even if it's not direct ownership, put a little bit of support. And that comes from manufacturers to Hendrick Motorsports or whoever is a team owner. I know I'm trying to spend somebody else's money, but I'm just saying that it comes from the team ownership side. Chris mentioned it. Venturini had been the top dog. Then you had Joe Gibbs Racing come in. Nitro Motorsports is building and going to take over, but that's one organization. So now when you look at who to pick, say, from the ARCA Menards series, you're going to look from that organization. I mean, that's your top look when it comes to organization. And it's going to be because they got the resources. So that's where I think it has to come from, is ownership on these other series, which case, there again, it's all about money, right? Well, what kind of return do they get for that? And I get that. Again, I'm not the one writing the check. I'm telling them where to spend their money.
Yeah. All Sports All Day says it's been fun, the most competitive. The Can-Am Pro Series, East and West in 17 to 19 was very awesome.
That was the time frame, yep.
And I agree with that. I'll go back and watch some of those 17 to 19 Can-Am races. So many good memories and races. I agree. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I really enjoyed that series.
And that's an example where I was talking about, because like Todd Gillen came with McAnally at that time, Bill McAnally, now McAnally Hilgeman, but they were building their organization, and the whole organization moved along to where they're now in the truck series. So that was them building their organization. They just didn't fully stay. I know McAnally still does some in the West Series, which is needed.
Well, GMS Racing used to have some cars in the series as well. And we used to see that too, where some of the, they seem to have drivers coming from some of the NASCAR teams to race in those series. And that was really, I thought, healthy for that sport.
That's a good point. That's where then that is support from above, and a little bit extra money and support, manufacturer support.
Absolutely. Okay. So do we want to go to our new topic here?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, let's go. But hold on. I do have one more thing I want to add to that.
Okay.
Jay, you made such a great point. If you bring in these older drivers or these drivers from the Cup Series, the one thing that we're missing in the lower series is what we had that was thriving in the 90s. And that's Cup drivers who claim ownership to lower series teams. Michael Waltrip built his cars in a little bitty garage. Dale Jarrett had a little single team that he raced with and sometimes would hire a driver for. And I think that if you brought that opportunity for those guys to actually come down to the ARCA series as a mentorship, as a way, then what you would see is the Eric Joneses buying into a race team. You would see and what you're doing is you're just padding the growth and the stability of your racing culture. And I think that that's something that we're not really doing in these lower series. We're not taking care of them. We're allowing them to be standalone teams who are forced to come up with this funding, and racing gets more expensive and more expensive. There's not, when you look at the payout compared to what the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series make, and especially the ARCA Series, I could only imagine the pennies on the $100 bills that's actually given there. If salaries start to increase in the NASCAR Cup Series, hopefully you'll see some of these guys that are willing to invest back into the sport. I've always said for a long time that football really misses the cue because you have these NFL, all these rich NFL teams and rich basketball teams, but they don't really do much on taking care of the local inner city ball leagues and stuff like that. Like they'll invest in all these expensive stadiums and players, but where's the investment into the communities where these future players are coming from? And I just feel like that's an important part of the growth of our sport. If these owners, if these Cup drivers are not getting into ownership and they're not helping build and maintain the same outlets that they use to get to the Cup Series, then we're endangering that. And so that's it. I'm done with that. But it's just something that I'm kind of open-minded to and looking for the growth of the sport in that manner. So sorry about carrying that topic on a little bit too long.
Oh,
no, that was good.
Derek Kraus, miss him running K&N, thought he was going to be a cup guy one day, says All Sports All Day. And then Jay, it says Michael Huseman.
Yeah.
I see Kraus as I do Casey Atwood, just really never really got a full opportunity to progress. But I did also put into the chat room that coming up next, let's see here.
Well, this was the only topic on SiriusXM. Like I said, they'd mention, hey, by the way, Ryan Blaney won the race, but then they'd go right back to Joe Gibbs Racing and what happened there.
Yep. Okay, coming up next, the JGR Dust Up, and I saw this on X today. And NASCAR Chasm posted this, and it's Joe Gibbs holding a sign that says, well, this is awkward, and I think it is. All Sports All Day says, I'm sorry, but Ty Gibbs' hate is so forced now. I hate him and ARCA and Xfinity, but he's changed now. Does he stink? Maybe, but don't know why we had people cheering Denny for wrecking Gibbs at Loudon. I 100% agree with that. I'm going to go first, I guess, on this one. I think Denny Hamlin is 100% in the wrong. He had a chance to showcase his talent and pass Ty Gibbs using his talent. I know he was frustrated. I know he thought he was so special that Ty Gibbs should just move over for him. And so because he's a playoff player, a playoff driver. Well, I'm sorry, you're not that special. If you're that special, show us your talent and drive around the guy. Don't hit him in the back. What he showcased instead is that he lacks the talent to get around him. And so he had to bunt him out of the way to do it. Other drivers didn't do that. Ryan Blaney didn't do that all day long. So I'm very passionate about this. And I don't think Denny Hamlin used his best judgment in that case. Later on, he says he made a mistake. And I think after he did it, he realized what a big mistake it was. And decided to kind of gloss it over a little bit. I love Denny Hamlin's talent. Let me put it that way. I love his talent, but he irks me with these kind of boneheaded moves, to use Chris's words. He shoots himself in the foot all of the time. And sometimes I think he does it on purpose, but it is not
Bingo.
fair to Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs was out there racing his heart out and trying to do a good job for his team, his sponsors, and his organization. He doesn't have to move over for Denny Hamlin. Excuse me. I get very passionate about this. He does not have to move over for Denny Hamlin and should not be expected to move over for Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin needs to use his talent like every other race car driver on that track and race around the guy. Excuse me. I'm going to get off my soapbox, and Jay will go to you next because I know Chris has already kind of given some of his comments.
Well, and I'll just let you know, and I was typing it out. I love seeing it and you're right, of that, yeah. That and when somebody goes through tech and gets DQ'd, she gets fired up on that too. But to say 100%
DQ'd.
Right. Yeah.
They're not.
It's tough to say 100% at fault, but certainly into the 90% for a multitude of reasons. And one of the reasons, Sharon, you didn't hit on, to me, is on the elder statesman. Chris, you were talking about this, of that maturity and teaching these drivers what are you teaching them there? I'm the one that the championships, the JGR's championship is on my shoulders. So you got to give. Yeah, I don't agree with that. So could there have been a little bit maybe of leniency? Maybe, but again, Ty Gibbs is out there trying to get his first win, show that he belonged in the playoffs. So no, I don't view that situation at all on Ty Gibbs, or very, very little. Little, as you said, disappointed that just from a maturity level that Denny Hamlin doesn't, and I don't know what made me expect to see maturity out of him, but to what he's trying to say, I just think if it were the other way around and you were the driver that didn't make the playoffs going for your first win, you wouldn't be showing nobody any kind of respect or aware of their situation versus yours. Again, nobody used the words. Nobody at any point used the words move over and give him the spot. It was aware of the situation. I know they were stressing that today. Like I said, I listened to Sirius XM all day, and that's all it was. But so yeah, I was a little disappointed in that, and obviously don't agree with it. And that would go to any team in any situation. I don't want to see Chase Elliott pull over and let Kyle Larson by. I don't want to see Josh Berry give Ryan Blaney any slack if he's trying to go for a second win for Wood Brothers, although they're not Penske, they're affiliated with them, so get attached to that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Formula One. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me, from that aspect. Now, do you race your teammate a little bit different? Do you race any playoff driver a little bit different? I do see that, and I respect that request, but also just because you made the playoffs, Sharon, like you said, if you got the talent to race your way into the playoffs, race your way around these guys and deal with it, you're not going to be given anything. And I know, and this started when we first started this playoff format. NASCAR likes to have the team meeting or at the driver's meet and say, hey, we're not telling you to pull over and let them go by you, but they are racing for a championship and you're not. And I mean, I just leave it at that. Like I said, I don't want to see them pull over. But like I said, I know, and it goes to whether it be a teammate, a manufacturer. We talk about that when it comes to, say, Talladega and Daytona. A manufacturer, this one versus your manufacturer versus another. Yeah, I get you're going to show a little bit more favoritism towards another Chevy than an opposing one in Ford and Toyota if you're in a Chevy. But again, to say I'm not going to go with a Ford if I think that's where my shot at winning is or my best finish for my team, yeah, I'm all behind. You do what you got to do for your team first.
All Sports All Day says, I'm sorry, but Ty Gibbs' hate is so forced now. I hated him in ARCA and Xfinity, but he's changed now. Does he stink? Maybe, but don't know why he had people cheering Denny for wrecking Gibbs at Loudon. Boy, oh boy, I had a hard time reading that. I don't know why, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it shouldn't be on Ty Gibbs to have to.
Well, and that goes. I think the reason you see that is there's still the stigma to Ty Gibbs that coming through the ARCA and Xfinity of the team owner grandson, nepotism. Chris will jump in on that, I'm sure, here as we throw it to him. But yeah, he built his own reputation. So what you got, Chris?
Chris, we want to hear it.
Yeah, just Denny being Denny, a boneheaded move. Way too early in the race to even be worried about that. But let's go back. Let's remember another former Hall of Famer who had issues with the team member who happened to be the grandson of the car owner. One Kevin Harvick with
Silver Spoon.
Austin Dillon, yeah. And what was going on there? Something on the inside, right? There was some things that were going on. There was some trouble on the bridge. And I think that maybe Ty Gibbs may have just been sacrificed as the one that, let's look at this deep, right? Does Denny Hamlin feel slighted that Joe Gibbs didn't kind of stand up for them at a chance where really, they could lose the organization? They could lose 23-11 at the end of the year and close their doors. but he got a little bit of help from the person who was obviously a business strategist, somebody who was really helping him grow his business. Not getting help from Joe Gibbs, who knows? Like, is this just a power move where Denny wants the young kid on the block to know who the daddy is of the chicken house, or what? I'm not really sure here. All I know is that move right there could have cost all two cars a chance to run for a championship for Joe Gibbs. And Joe Gibbs has got to look at it like that and reprimand Denny Hamlin as such, because there's a time and a place for everything. And if you're 5 laps to go and you've got a slower car in front of you, you're going to do what you got to do. But this was way too early in the race. Denny had been heated for several laps. Steve Letarte had just gotten out of his mouth that we need to keep our eye on this because it could get interesting. And then the move happened, and maybe the move wasn't as egregious as what we're making it out to be. Maybe it was just a little bit of drove in there a little bit too hard, but in a way it almost seems like it was on purpose. It almost seems like he was just trying to make a point, and at the same time almost collected another teammate who is battling for this same championship that Denny's battling for. So I'm not really sure, what type of disciplinary actions would be held against Denny for that, and whether or not that adds more fuel to the fire. But I'll be honest with you, somebody needs to go over there and stomp Denny Hamlin on his toe. They need to take away his pacifier and spill his milk on the kitchen table, because this guy's got to get something to get fired up to win a darn championship. And if this is where it starts, well, I hope Joe Gibbs really laid into him first thing this morning.
He says, how does Chris tie Denny wrecking Ty into a conspiracy about the darn lawsuit?
Because look, you can say what you want to, but we do sometimes leach out in areas. Look, okay, maybe it's a little far-fetched, but hey,
that's a really thin thread you were following there.
Well, to settle a score, look, Denny Hamlin, like I said, has a lot on the line, and here's Mr. Joe Gibbs' grandson. What better way to get the boss riled up than to wreck his grandson? I mean, there has to be something behind it, right? And Denny Hamlin, take what Denny Hamlin said. Is everybody scared to say something to Ty? What is that something? What was Denny Hamlin saying? Was Denny Hamlin saying, are y'all scared to tell Ty that he sucks? Because that's what I take from it. And maybe that is just the head honcho saying something. Or there again, maybe it was a lot deeper than that, and really comes down to, Denny's under a lot of pressure right now. He could possibly lose his race team. He's there. He's at the end of his run. He doesn't have a championship yet. Could things be getting rocky in the Gibbs situation? Because look, if you're forced to pick a driver to race your race car, are you going to pick Tyler Reddick or are you going to pick Denny Hamlin? We don't know the true insides of what's going to happen here in the next couple of months. So I know it's a 1% chance that Denny Hamlin went up there and might have done a little love tap on the back of him. But it reminds me of when Kevin Harvick started getting into it with the Silver Spoon kids. And, there was obviously some animosity there. So maybe this is just a rollover of that. I don't know. It was a lot more clear with the Kevin Harvick deal because Kevin was already leaving Richard Childress Racing. But it is definitely something that comes to mind when you see a Hall of Fame driver picking on the boss's grandkid.
Chris just wanted to show off his lawyer skills. I respect the conspiracy theories. That's all sports all day. Now, I wanted to show you guys this as well. This is Denny Hamlin's interview. Now, if you listen to his radio kind of contradicts some of this a little bit. But if you want to, this is what he said after the race.
We made contact in it was like a fourth or fifth time we made contact, but eventually ended up getting spun.
Would you have felt that? Would you have done the same thing if it wasn't a teammate, or how would you feel like it would have been different if you weren't teammates?
Well, I made a mistake in turn one, so yeah, I would have made a mistake with anybody in that position.
So what's this out of the way?
I was trying to get by him. that was a task in itself.
What's the discussion that needs to happen, or if any, a tie or between you or somebody else?
Because you definitely
Yeah,
can't
I'll let leadership kind of, quarterback it however they'd like to. But obviously, us, the 2019, are all trying to win a championship for their family. So it's crazy, unfortunate why we're racing the way we are. We made contact in a one.
Okay.
It was like
that there right there with their family. That seems like taking
Yeah.
yourself out of the
There's
team there.
underlying. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some underlying. Yes. So you pick up on that, Sharon.
Yeah. I think there's some underlying things here.
Thank you. That makes me feel so much better.
All Sports All
Somebody's
Day
finally
says
believing
so.
in a conspiracy around here.
All Sports All Day says so. Basically, he said Ty Gibbs stinks. But he also said that they're trying to do this for their family.
Yes.
With a lot more left to be said. Yeah, I think there is some underlying stuff here that's not being said, and it's coming out on the racetrack because if you listen to his radio, he was highly frustrated that he could not get by Ty Gibbs. But my thing, it goes back to, it's your job to get by him cleanly. You're not to do that. And I compare that, let me see, I'll find it, but I'll compare it to what Ryan Blaney said after the race. And let me see if I can find it very quick here. Ryan Blaney had some comments after the race. And to me, this is the difference between somebody who is emotionally mature and where there's an expectation set at the top of the chain here of what these drivers are supposed to do. And here, let me first of all get it started at the beginning. Okay, this is Ryan Blaney after the race, and somebody asked him about racing teammates.
You know, you're at one point you're battling Joey for the lead, and at one point you're battling Josh for the lead. Did you have different expectations depending on either of them?
No. You know, when Joey and I are racing for the lead, we know what this is for. So fully expect us to race hard, but race clean. Like, I was never going to lay a bumper to Joey. Trying to get by him there in stage 3 or stage 1, I think, when he was leading. Absolutely. I got by him. Like, didn't want to do it that way. Teammate or not, I didn't want to do it that way, especially with a teammate. Like, I'm not just going to rough you up. So, but I fully expect to race hard, and that's what Roger expects of us. You know, that's what Eddie and Len expect with the Wood brothers. Like, going to go out there, we're going to race really hard, but we're going to do it in a fair way. So yeah, no, I thought we did everything great. I fully expected it to be tough racing, and we definitely showed that.
You know, you're at one point you're battling Joey for the lead, and
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, whole different ball game when you're talking to Ryan Blaney. That's a championship caliber driver right there. And there's a reason why Denny, I don't think Denny has that emotional maturity. And I think we saw that on display. He put himself on display as to why he doesn't have a championship. And I hate to say that because I do respect Denny's talent. Denny is an extremely talented driver, but he frustrates me when he does the things that he does and says the things that he says. And I understand the frustration, but there's a better way to handle that. That could have been a great opportunity for him to mentor Ty Gibbs. You know, pull him aside later on and talk to him. Because I have seen drivers who, if their car is slower, they will kind of put their hand out the window and pull aside because they know their car's slower and they don't want to win the field.
Mark Martin mentored everybody when it came to that.
Yes.
He said, if you're faster, I'll let you go.
Yep. And so there was an opportunity for Denny to take the higher road here and be a mentor to Ty Gibbs. But for whatever reason, he didn't want to do that. All Sports All Day says, does Ty Gibbs do anything in return? Old Ty suggests yes, but I think he takes the higher road. Yeah, that's heat of the moment. He certainly implied that he's moving on to the next race. He can't wait for the next race. So, but you don't know if that's heat of the moment or if he has time to think about it and takes the higher road. I hope he takes the higher road. And because I've seen, again, Ryan Blaney a lot of times take the higher road when he's done wrong. I really love the fact when he went over and talked to Kyle Larson and said, what did I do to deserve that? He didn't go in pointing fingers. He really handled it very professionally. And he was frustrated, deservedly so. But he put it back on him. What did I do to deserve that? And Kyle Larson said, nothing. I made a mistake. So, yeah, you know, I can get on a soapbox about that too, but I'll let that slide this time. But yeah, I think there's a lot of difference. And for whatever reason, Denny Hamlin just hasn't gotten past that learning curve when it comes to emotional maturity.
Well, that's where, yeah, I'll follow that up. And that is what I said was going to hit on of that. The maturity and it costing himself. Sharon, you kind of hit on it. Costing himself imploding during a championship run. Do you really want this now, especially within Joe Gibbs Racing, in-house fighting? You know, to me, it goes back to, and especially with the Ryan Blaney interview there, it is a matter of entitlement. Like Denny Hamlin feels entitled to be there, entitled to be the one representing Joe Gibbs Racing, entitled to a championship. Whereas Ryan Blaney says, I'm here, I earned my way here. I gotta race my way here. That's my perspective on that. Two other things I'd written down here real quick. Throughout the day, everybody was saying, well, it was so early in the race. Why was Ty Gibbs fighting that early in the race? You know, it was what, lap 130, stage 2. Why are you fighting that hard and blocking that hard? Well, turn that around. Why is Hamlin pushing that hard that early in the race then? You know, that goes both ways. And I understand Ty Gibbs has built his own reputation in All Sports All Day, has referenced it. So going back to that of, will he do anything? In the past, I would have said yes. And I think he may have, when he came back out on the track, still been hot under the collar, obviously. But I think by next week, we'll see it simmer down. And they like to reference Martin Truex. Martin Truex was one of those, he'd get out and said, well, he won the battle. I'm going to win the war. I'm going to take him out. Truex never did anything in return.
No.
Ty Gibbs, has he reached that point? No, I do not think so. I think he will remember it. Do I see him going out there with the laser locked in focus on it? No, because I think he really does want to prove himself a winner first and foremost, and that's what he was racing for there at Loudon. So it could spark off, but I don't think he goes with that intention of, I'm going to find somebody this race and get him. Whereas we have seen Denny Hamlin do so. I think back to Phoenix and Ross Chastain. Well, he's 3 cars behind you. Well, I'll stomp on the brakes to go get him. Like, okay, that's just you a knucklehead. You guys bonehead. You guys have been used. Be like, you going to slow down to try and get at somebody? You're supposed to be trying to move forward.
Exactly. All Sports All Day says, I wouldn't mind a Denny-Ty rivalry. The tension would feed families. Chris?
Yeah, I think that we're so caught up in what Denny did, we've forgotten that our biased media spent all day basically hammering Ty Gibbs for how he handled the situation. And we want to talk about maturity. Like, Ty Gibbs probably showed us more maturity in that single "we're going on to Kansas" statement than we've ever seen in his entire career. He had the chance to sit there and say something that he would regret. He had the chance, but you know what it sounded like? Sounds like he's got a pretty good idea how long his career is going to be there at Joe Gibbs Racing, and the other guy, Well, he may be questioning how much longer he actually has left. And look, I heard Danielle Trotta say how disrespectful it was for Ty Gibbs to not answer the question asked by the media. I am so over this I gotcha media. I am so over the hot take. I am the master of hot take, and I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of every single time somebody doesn't fall in and do exactly or trigger exactly the way that that the media sets the bait up for, then all of a sudden they're a terrible person and they're disrespectful because they refuse to get baited by a question that was clearly intended to stir the pot.
Stir it up. Yep.
When Ty Gibbs said, "I'm on to Kansas," that should have been a great response. And any of the other old reporters, the Ned Jarrett's, or even Dale Jarrett's brother, I forget his name. I remember him being a pit reporter for a long time. What was the older Jarrett? Come on, guys. Glenn Jarrett. He would have just said, well, that was a great comment. You know, like we've forgotten that we respect the fact when people don't run their mouth, when people don't create the hot take moment. And I think that is the part of the sport that I really miss, the gentleman's respect of, hey, you know what? It was a bad situation. It's in-house. We're going to handle it in-house. We're on to Cincinnati. That's exactly, he's just pulling a Bill Belichick. No, he was covering his tail to make sure that he didn't stand up there and sound like a whiny boob bag. I'm sorry. I could have said something worse, but I want to make sure that I'm keeping it rated G. So, yeah. Finally somebody left the no longer needs Infamil. I'm proud of you, Ty. You graduated off
Ty
Infamil.
did a good job. Yeah, I thought Ty did a good job in responding to the questions, and he had a little smile on his face, which was fine. I thought Ty did a really good job and actually showed a lot more maturity, I think, than Denny did. So Denny just does not have control of his emotions, and it gets him in trouble every single time. So, and then the other thing is, being the media hound that he is, it's all about me. It's all about Denny. So it is what it is. Go ahead.
Did we get a legit talk or interview with Christopher Bell? Was he able to give his insight? Because if I'm Christopher Bell, I'm looking at that in a completely different way than I think Denny and Ty handled it. Did we not ever get an interview from Christopher Bell on that particular matter?
I can look for that.
I know they said
pudding is.
Somebody kind of referenced it. I don't know if it was the interview, but just the in-car during the race.
What did he say then?
Well, you would think the media would be running over there to get Christopher Bell's bird's eye view of it, and instead of just taking it from Denny and Ty.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear or see anything as far as Bell post race.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. I turned the TV off as soon as Ryan Blaney went across, because it is football season, and so I'm caught between two loves. But I also found out that Ryan Blaney did not do a burnout. So not only did I not catch the interviews, but I was also told during the post-race celebration that Ryan Blaney did not do a burnout, which is typically Ryan Blaney had never done burnouts up until
That's normal for him. Doing the burnout is actually out of character for him.
Right. That was something I had forgotten to mention there when we were talking about the actual race. But So I think
this is what I found. Okay. Now again, Quentin Tarantino. He says, put together the onboards of Denny Hamlin and Ty Gibbs plus Christopher Bell as a bonus to try and paint a complete picture of what happened between them. Gibbs was unhappy with how Bell was racing him in the middle of 3 wide. I think Denny was unhappy with Gibbs for the way he was racing him, both him and the 20. And the 54 was using both lanes trying to keep Hamlin and Bell back. The game on comment that Gibbs made over his radio was made after the 11 passed him under caution. So I guess this is their comments.
Three. Smart with these guys here.
There you go.
Still 3 minutes.
Hold on.
Still 3. Still 3. Still 3. Still outside 4. Still 3. Still 3. Still 3 minutes. Still 3. Long ways to go here. 93 more in this segment. Staying under the tire. Still full. Dust up behind the 4 up top. 7 rolling to the mid. 3.
Wow, that's 6 minutes and 31 seconds.
Yeah. We don't want to go all the way, I guess, but
Inside 20.
Well, and that was one of the
listen to all of it before I shared it. So
that was one of the things that they referenced on Hamlin's behalf. The fact that he fought that hard with Bell was frustrated that somebody got by him, so that maybe Ty was going to make sure the next car didn't, and it just happened to be Denny Hamlin. That had Hamlin come up a little bit later, he would have given a little more leeway, but he was real hot because he had lost that battle. That was one answer or excuse, if you will, for Ty's action of battling that hard.
Jay, did you really say this?
I did. I'm pretty proud of myself.
Is it just me, or am I the only showing maturity on here tonight and that gets spun up? Okay. All Sports All Day says, wow, Denny Hamlin committing detrimental actions on the track. That is funny. Heim and Blaney didn't burn out. Chris, who's your CFB team?
Roll Tide.
I was right. I got it. It's the next 2 lines. I said I thought that's who you were, but I was like, I didn't want to make it an accusation either, so I was like, I might be wrong, but I thought you were an RT guy.
Okay, I figured it was going to be Roll Tide as well. I
refuse to say that. That's why I put RT. I refuse to say it.
I do like that Ryan Blaney didn't do the burnout too. I think it shows that he has confidence that his car is legal, and I like that when they don't do the burnouts. And I didn't think about it. Heim didn't do a burnout either. Does he do the Polish victory lap?
I don't know if he has any kind of consistent thing. I'm trying to think.
I must have walked away from that.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, see you in the third Saturday in October, Rocky Top all the way.
We got some unfinished business there, that's for sure.
And he did a lap, but didn't burn out. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I like that they don't do the burnouts. I know a lot of people like the burnouts, but to me, they're wrecking their car up so that they can pass inspection. That's the way I see it. And I think it should be illegal, personally. That's my
I don't know who the quote goes back to. I've heard it on the different shows, but I know it's not necessarily from the show itself. Somebody references if you win the Kentucky Derby, you don't then beat the horse to death, why you beat the car up by burning the motor and the tires up. Yeah.
And to me, it's a lack of respect for the work that goes into putting those cars together.
Right.
And that's what Jeff Burton used to always say.
He might be the one that brings it up all the time. I just know I've heard it, and like I said, I always thought that was a fair point. As a fan, I do kind of like it of that, but I understand from the ownership side and the money side that that can be. I agree, Sharon. If you're going to read this next one, I heard that was an awesome race.
Okay, it says if you guys get a chance after Hall, after, Hall should watch
Y'all.
you all. I think that's supposed to be. She'll watch the highlights off the Whelen modified race. Wildest finish I've ever seen in person. You know, I usually always watch the Whelen modifieds when they're at New Hampshire, and I missed it this year. So, yeah. I wish
I had heard that the finish of that one, that they had to separate the cars to get the one out of there to take the victory lane, kind of like Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt, from what I heard.
Okay. Sounds good. I did not see it. Did you see it, Chris?
I did not, and that's one of the ones that I get excited about as well. But I was spending my Saturday looking for the Xfinity race, only to find out by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon that there wasn't going to be an Xfinity race. I thought, why in the world would the Truck Series race at 11 o'clock in the morning and not have an Xfinity race in the afternoon? I've said it here, I'll say it again. I'm very aggravated with how the structure of the playoffs are. I think that all 10 races should be in sync with each other. That way there's no give or take of when who's where and what in the championship. It makes it mighty confusing to see the way that it's structured now, trying to keep up with. I mean, you're having an off day in the playoffs. That doesn't ever happen.
I think what they're trying to do is they try staggering it so that each playoff has its own elimination highlight reel, if you will, versus having all the different highlight wheels. I think they're trying to give them their own time in the sun to shine by staggering it.
That's a pretty good assessment there. I like that.
There's two sides to it. I'm with you, Chris, too. If like, okay, we started the playoffs, let's get to it and finish it, not have a break. But yeah, I think Sharon's right. I'm sure there is a strategic reason for it as to why they do it, whether we agree with it and want it or not.
Yeah. There's always another way to look at it. All Sports All Day says tough for some truck teams to go 10 straight, and that's probably true.
That's a valid point as well. You're right.
It is definitely a valid point. Okay, I love it when we're interacting with All Sports All Day or any other people that are in the audience out there. We love the interaction, so let's keep it going.
Absolutely.
But let's move on here. Strictly rumors.
All right, so Sharon, I will. Is it my turn to pick one?
Well, do you want to go to that one, or did you want to go somewhere else?
Well, that was one of them. I know there's two of them up there. Just being that I said I was being the mature one, I may get fired up here if we go to the Dodge Ram truck drivers one.
You want to go to that one first?
Yeah, because that one's going to tie into where, like I said, I may be the one to get fired up now. There was a post out there that there was rumor that Tony Breidinger and Cletus McFarland, this is where Chris mentioned it earlier, I said I'd come back to it, were going to be in line for the truck rides with Kaulig Racing. And the post I happened to be on and reading, fans went ballistic of how the truck series was a joke, Ram's going to be a joke because they're bringing in, and I can't think of the words, and I don't think I should be using them anyway because some of them weren't so nice. Not drivers, but media superstars. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but we have talked about it. Somebody that's going to bring fans, but no driver talent. And I disagree with that, and I'll let you guys say what you got to say before I come back around.
Well, All Sports All Day says Brendan Queen better be in trucks.
Yeah, but I don't think his is going to be on the Dodge Ram side. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it here before. I'll say it again. You need some really promising talent, and you need a couple wily veterans. You need somebody to help, captain the ship. Somebody who's got experience. Matt Crafton, I think, he would have been a great stewarder for that organization if he had been interested in it. I'm not sure he may still be, but when you're throwing names out like Cletus and Butterbean and Tony, and it comes to my mind that you're putting several drivers in this mix that you really are questioning whether or not they're talented enough to go to the next level. Dodge, you're coming in and you're putting a lot. Well, Ram, you're coming in and you're putting a lot of money down on the line. Why would you not be making sure that you have top flight talent to carry your organization? Because we've seen what lack of talent can do when Toyota come aboard, especially in the Cup Series, when they only had, Brian Vickers. That was kind of their money talent for that group of racers. I know Michael Waltrip, but Michael wasn't smothered in wins every year. He was a really good restrictor plate racer at the time, and that's kind of where he got his bread and butter. But outside of that, the future of Toyota racing was really just left in the hands of the 83 car by Brian Vickers. And I believe, who was the other? It was AJ Allmendinger, right? And then Bill Davis had Scott Wimmer, I believe, that was in the car. So
Casey Kane was in Dodge for a while.
When they went to Cup and Ray Everham went over and took the Dodge team. Right, Chris was going with the Toyota at the time.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Scott Wimmer. I think he was already the main driver there over at the Bill Davis team that moved over to Dodge. Well, that's right, Dodge. So Toyotas. Okay, so I did get those two mixed there.
That's where I got confused, I guess.
So no, during the time of Dodge, I think that was Bill Davis did go to Toyota, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe there's some truth in that somewhere, and I've just gotten myself confused with the back talk. But as I said, you want to make sure that you have a talent that you can grow with, but you also need that stable steward. Like what you had with Dodge and Bill Elliott, right? That was a really good transition. And Bill hadn't had the best of years coming up to that point because he would become a driver owner, of course, and that didn't work out too well for him. But he had the ability to be the captain of the ship and carry Dodge. Toyota, they didn't, and that's part of the reason why they failed in the beginning, because they didn't have a good driver to carry the stable. This is a situation where you can throw a whole lot of money into this mix and still not have the results that you're looking for. I'm really anticipating the future of where we, what Dodge, what Ram does in the future to say, hey, this is going to be our guy. Even if it's Daniel Suarez, you pay Daniel Suarez $3 million to come race your team, because if you get Daniel Suarez in your truck, you're gonna have a star that you can kind of build your operation with. I know $3 million, whatever, that's just a thrown out number, but you convince one of these drivers that's kind of questioning where their career is right now, a driver that's proven to be semi-successful, and you put them in the stable. That way you can kind of help it grow. And the transition over to the Cup Series should be a lot easier if you put the right talent and the right people in their spots.
Yeah, I've heard the same rumor, and it is just rumors. And you know what? These things are always fluid too. It might be this today, but tomorrow it might be two completely different drivers. But All Sports All Day says, man, I like Tony, but fudge. Last one in points on the same team as first in points. Not a great look in multiple years in a row. Cletus may be a better option for Ram. And he says, this is what Jay said. I see talent and opportunity in both. Cletus has shown solid ability, but not lit the world on fire. So, I kind of always hesitate to get too excited about this stage of it, because I think that it's so fluid and could change overnight. So, yeah, Tony might not be the best choice. I think she has potential. I know she's been in that car multiple years, but you're right. It's not a good look when you got the number one driver and the last driver kind of on the same team. Tony needs to step it up at some point and start really competing. And I think every once in a while she does show a glimmer of hope. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I would love for her to be more successful. Cletus McFarland is one of those guys with the personality that we were talking about, the engaging personality that engages fans and gets people excited about watching the racing. So I think he is a good fit. And All Sports All Day says, I got to head out, y'all. Thanks for everything. P.S. I actually do like Bama a little, but Tennessee is my Dixieland delight.
I don't really have a dog in a fight, but I do know, because I'm going to help work it for Celebrate Recovery, that Tennessee has to come through Mississippi State first next weekend.
Ooh,
and not that
Mississippi State's undefeated.
They are, but I'll get Tennessee should have beat Georgia, so I don't have a lot of hope here.
I've been watching.
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this, but literally where I'm from, we have Tennessee Hate Week, and all we do is talk about how we can't stand that puke orange. So, but I still love you, brother. Glad to have you on.
Absolutely.
And
I appreciate you being here.
We'll be fine. Yeah.
I've been watching the Texas
Tennessee
Longhorns.
Hate Week, of course. So that's always the third weekend in October, which is also the same weekend as the Fall Classic. So, and it used to be the same weekend as the Mississippi Alabama State Fair. I can remember many times as a kid listening to Tennessee and Alabama play while we were at the fair. So that's always been a really big rivalry. Plus, my favorite player of all time, Peyton Manning, come out of the University of Tennessee. So I don't have any ill will towards you. So
All Sports All Day says Cowboys can't hurt the blue tick Cows.
Oh, the cowbells. That's cowbells.
Cowbells, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought I said. Anyway, I've been watching the Longhorns because my son lives in Texas, and I've been watching Florida State because my daughter is an alumni of Florida State. But I also like watching Notre Dame, and I like watching Illinois and some of the other teams too. It says, oh, yes, I agree, Jay. Appreciate you being here no matter what your opinion or likes. Laugh out loud. So, yeah, we do appreciate All Sports All Day and his interaction with us throughout the show. We hate to see you go when you got to go, but we understand it. And we hope you're back with us again next week. So, okay, are we done with this one or?
No, I haven't got to go yet.
Oh, okay, go.
Go.
Now, Chris, you hit on something key, and I'm not the one involved at the executive level of it by any means, but when you talk about having a veteran as well as the new driver, I feel like the way that they're going to do it, the full-time trucks are going to be, if it is Tony Breidinger and Cletus McFarland, let's just say, those are your full-time drivers in a couple of trucks that are full-time. Your veteran leadership is going to be from the cup drivers that come out and make a few starts and help guide the team. That's how I see it. Because, again, they're going to have one, if not two, of the rotating all-star teams like we see in the Xfinity Series. Whether that's the best plan, how it works, I don't know. You mentioned of spending the money and going out and getting a top driver. You got to remember, these top drivers are probably locked into somebody. The one, if I were Ram, I would be whispering, hey, Corey Heim, Toyota ain't got no room for you to move up. We'll get you here and we'll get you there and spend some money there. But, do I want to see Corey Heim in the truck series again? No, for a couple of reasons. I think he's proved his worth there and should already have, moved on. But from the Dodge side or Ram side, yeah, I'd love to see him get somebody like that. You mentioned Daniel Suarez again. I'd absolutely at least be having a conversation with them of, hey, what do you got? We'll work on getting you through all the way up to the next level down the road. But yeah, you're not going to find that top unless you get the young guy that's coming in, which they're all, Heim is under contract. Butterbean Queen is under a contract. There's a reason for that. These guys know that, hey, what we see them doing at that late model level, at the ARCA level, somebody's going to snatch them up real quick, like if we don't. So that becomes part of it.
I'll get
The only
real riled up. What if it was Haley Deegan? There's rumors of her coming back.
That's right. Yeah. Again, I never had a problem with Deegan. The one thing I will say this, and whether it's Cletus McFarland or not, I understand a tad bit of where some fans were coming from of he's more of a showman than a racer. Like I said, he's been solid in the ARCA Menards series, top 10. Do I want to see one that is all show and draws attention versus actually races? No. But I also think you've got to give these drivers time to develop. That's where I have the issue. And we'll just take Tony Breidinger, talking about where she's at. I understand that team has somebody at the championship top end. She's on that same team. Well, are you truly giving her the same resources and attention you're giving that one? Or are you saying, hey, this one's in the playoff. Everybody focus on this one. You do your own thing until, I don't know. I'm just saying there could be that side of it of they aren't getting the full attention that.
It could go the other way around, though, too, Jay, if I can just interrupt for a minute. It could be, I think about Corey Haim giving feedback about the truck. And I don't know that Tony Breidinger can do that as effectively as a Corey Haim can do. She's involved with so many other extracurricular activities that I think it does impact her racing and her learning curve. I mean, I know maybe I'm being weird about that.
No.
I think there's some validity to it. Go ahead.
See if you can tell me who this quote come from. Do you either want to be a rock star or a driver?
Yeah, I know.
That came from Mother Earnhardt, Teresa Earnhardt, to Dale Earnhardt Jr., and there was some truth in it. As much as people want to dislike on Teresa, I think there was some truth in that, and I think Dale Jr. will admit it now. I don't know if he would at the time, but he said when he got to Hendrick Motorsports, you're right. And that is something that is on Tony's end then to develop, of find a way to communicate or work with crew chief, whoever, to grow and develop. So you're right. Not get out of the truck and do your social media thing and not help build or get feedback and understand. So you're right. That does go both ways. And that's why I said I think there is an opportunity there. Again, I've never been a Haley Deegan hater, if you will. I think she got more attention when she was running poorly than what she deserved. And I thought the same thing with Dale Jr., Danica Patrick. They happen to kind of be females, but like I said, of that. Honestly, again, if Jeff Gordon is running 30th, I don't want to hear about Jeff Gordon's day no more. I already know he's in the back and don't want to hear about it no more. But so I do think there's some great opportunities there. I just, like I said, to me, I get frustrated and spun up, and this is where I said I'd get spun up. The fans all want Cletus McFarland. Oh, he's in the next Rucker race. We got to watch it. We got to watch. Well, now he's got the opportunity, possible opportunity, because, again, it is rumor, to go to Ram, and then they're all hating on him like, well, get a driver with some talent. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this was the guy y'all were behind. Make up your mind. That's what confuses me is the fans.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah.
And I still behave more maturely than y'all.
Cletus is a fan drawer, and he's really helped the landscape of NASCAR by bringing in a new audience, a younger audience. But I'll take something that Kevin Harvick said about Danica Patrick. Danica just did not have the experience driving stock cars, and Cletus is, well into his 30s. He's not going to develop into a superstar stardom type of driver, but it doesn't mean that he's not healthy for the sport and good for the sport. Josh Williams did a simple waving at the flag stand or something, and with his mullet, and fans were just hip hip hooray over that, like they found their guy. And I think Cletus kind of fits that persona there. I've said it before. You've got to invest in some talent. You have got to make sure that your operation runs like a race shop. You can't just be, hey, here's a list of these people that have certain fan viewership, because we know why people are looking at Tony. We know why people are looking at Cletus. But where's the race car driver? And you're going to find one in a Grant Enfinger. You're going to find one in a Ben Rhodes. You're going to find one in a Ty Majeski. You're going to find one in a Bubba Pollard. You know, that's where I feel, I really feel like, you know, Dodge has got, I mean, Stellantis, Ram, whatever you want to call them, they've got to make sure that they are circling who their superstar is going to be of the organization. And it's not going to be found in Tony. It's not going to be found in Cletus. They're good articles to write, but they're not going to be successful Cup Series or they're not going to be the cream of the crop. Let me just put it like that. Yeah, Cletus he'll probably look up and win a race or something, you know, in his career. But you have a guy like Stuart Friesen, who we don't know if he's going to come back or not. But he's a one-man operation, a one-team operation that gets just a little bit of help from Toyota, enough to put the Toyota emblem on the front of the truck.
I love seeing him at the track this week.
It was so awesome having him back. If you give him the opportunity to be the pioneer of your franchise, I think that's those are the talents that you need to lock in on in order to make sure the future of your organization runs good.
So Chris, this is where, though, just using Stuart Friesen, and I like him and I'd pull for him, but he's another one when you look at it statistically to say, well, okay, he's not winning, you know, and I know he got the one win this year, but you got to let him develop, you know. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody wanted to write him off, and he almost did himself, you know, the week prior to getting his win, unfortunately. And it's like, no, Stuart, don't walk away. And he came back and got the win. You know, that's where you can't just look strictly at the statistics.
Yeah. I also wanted to hit on a point that you had earlier, that they were going to, you know, like have a revolving superstars in their one of their teams, or a couple
one or two
teams.
of the trucks, I think, are going to be a rotation.
Possible. That doesn't even make any sense, considering any superstar of the sport is tied to a certain manufacturer, and you know, you're not going to let your driver, your Toyota driver, or your Ford driver, or your Chevrolet driver go drive a Dodge in the Truck Series.
Maybe you were gone that week, because remember, and we talked about that. Kaulig is going to be Dodge, and I'm saying it's Ram. Darn it! I know that it's all tied together. I'm trying to follow what they're doing. Yeah, but they go with, when they talk about the trucks, it's always Ram. Yeah, the company is Stellantis. I don't even know if Dodge exists anymore, but it's Dodge to me. Anyway, that from the Cup Series garage, there isn't enough transfer of information and data. They're okay with them being Chevy at Cup and Dodge or Ram in the trucks. If they do go to Cup, then, you know, once Ram or Dodge, Stellantis, whoever it is, goes into Cup, then we're going to have some serious discussions about that. So I want to say Allmendinger's already pretty much kind of committed, saying he expects to run one or two, because if Kaulig says, hey, we need you to, that's what I said. I don't know if it's going to be one or two different trucks, but I believe one of the trucks is going to be a rotation of drivers.
Yeah. Just, you know, I could see that, but I definitely don't see a Tyler Reddick being able to drive a Dodge with or Ram emblem on the front of a truck when he's a Toyota driver. So we'll have to see how that happens. Of course, you know, AJ Allmendinger is a great example. He already races for the race team, and I'm not sure how deep of Chevrolet connections that he actually has within the Chevrolet group there. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't really know if we're prepared to see exactly, you know, how unsuccessful or successful Dodge is going to be. I think it's a big question mark right now. It seems like there's a lot to get into place before next season. This is kind of late in the year already, and there's still a whole lot of question marks. So if they're able to get 5 trucks prepared for the Daytona race, I'll be surprised, guys. I really will.
They'll do it. I have faith.
Where are those entries going to come from? You know, because I believe we're only starting 32 trucks in a field. So is that going to be 37 trucks now, trying to make a 32 truck field? Those are all questions that I really am deeply concerned about, and how, you know, basically you keep from the fiasco that happened with Toyota, where they couldn't even make races. That was You know, Toyota, people seem to forget, Toyota almost went belly up the first year because they couldn't qualify. They couldn't get into the race. And that's a whole lot of money to show up at an operation and not get a dime for anything. So
that's because NASCAR let them have charters, and then they couldn't get raced their way. I'm gonna behave tonight. I'm gonna behave.
Race. Back then, it was the top 35 rule, and their cars sucked so bad they couldn't even get into the top 35.
That was when the charters started, because that's what helped was Michael Waltrip sold this team, and it gave him the charters.
Didn't start until 2017. I'm not trying to get you all riled up. I do want to keep you mature here, but
no, yeah, don't ruin my night. No, Michael Waltrip. But Michael Waltrip was one of the teams that got charters, and the next year turned around and sold them. I mean, I'm happy for him. He's one of that system truly benefited. Because being that he was in the top 35, got the charter, and then turned around and sold it. You go back and look.
We're in completely different years. 2007, I believe, was the introduction of Toyota into the Cup Series. So Michael Waltrip Racing shut down, I don't know, what, 2018, 2019, something like that. So that was several years down the road there. When the charters, especially when the charters come in, I think the charters come in 2016.
What's his name was there? Rob Kaufman, because that's when then he went. I'm trying to think where else he went. Anyway, I better let Sharon get in here. I am going to ruin my record for tonight.
No, you're
Chris
fine.
is poking the bear. No, actually, you got me all like.
To make sure that we're not saying something wrong.
Sharon saw my face when you said something about Grant Enfinger. I was like, "Ooh, is he in a contract here? Can we get him over to Ram?"
Yes, I mean that would be the guy, right? Can we all agree that would be the main guy? Like seriously,
you're gonna make me cry. I thought Jeff Gordon was gonna go to Dodge when Ray Abraham did. Now I'm thinking maybe Grant Enfinger will.
That would be awesome, man. I love Grant Enfinger. That guy's out of Mobile, Alabama. Yeah, I can remember him. I think I sent him $10 or something, $20 back like 12, 13 years ago on Twitter when he was trying to get into the truck series for the very first time, and you bought your name on the truck. I swear to God, it was crazy. And so now here we are all these years later, and Enfinger's still tearing it up in the truck series. So
okay, are we ready for the next topic?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, how about this one? Strictly rumors. New crew chief for RCR in the number 8.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What was it? The word is Randall Burnett may be possibly leaving, and that was kind of where it started. Chris kind of said it. I'm actually surprised that hasn't happened already. I mean, Kyle's into the second year of a winless streak, and they've had slight flashes of improvement, but it just doesn't sustain. So I'm honestly surprised something like this hasn't already taken place. I mean, honestly.
Did you guys see Happy Harvick this week?
No, I haven't yet. Mine normally I pick up on or record a replay. What do I have to look forward to?
He had Rodney Childers on there.
I have seen that one. One.
Okay.
That's who you go get.
That's what I'm thinking.
Where was it? Go get. Yeah, but that wasn't a tie to RCR, was it? I know he's hinted at a couple of things. I think he's going to be back in the Cup garage, no doubt. Yeah. I didn't think it was RCR though, but I can't think of who else it was.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying he'd be a good prospect.
Yeah, man, for the life of me now, I can't even give where it was. But yeah, I definitely think the way the winks and the nudges and the hints are, he's going to be back in the garage. They did joke about that, of him being part of Kaulig, and maybe that's where I'm thinking now, that he might be part of the Dodge Ram truck thing.
I think we talked about that way back when, that maybe one of the reasons he left.
Well, I think that there was something alluded to that, but it didn't feel concrete enough. But I know right now, Chris, you said of, not enough going on. I think there's a lot of things going on we just don't know about yet. That come Daytona, you're going to see all these trucks. You're going to be like, well, where did they come from? They are getting the personnel all situated before they start talking about it. I think a lot of things are happening. This didn't just announce and they're going to start working on it. They've been working on it for 10, 15 years, but
yeah, it seems that way. Okay, but yeah, I just, I think that Rodney Childress might be a good prospect for maybe being a crew chief there. He might be going to Dodge. We don't know. But one thing I sensed from watching that interview was that he missed it. He missed being a part of the garage and being in all of that, and wants an opportunity to come back. So I think that would be good. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm surprised too that they haven't already made changes there for Kyle Busch. And maybe Kyle Busch is trying to, let it work its way through. But yeah, they need to do something. There's too much talent there for him not to be running well. And he has not been running well for a while. And surprisingly, for Kyle Busch, I think he's handling it extremely well. I would be a whole lot more frustrated if I were him. So your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, Cole Pern.
There's another one.
Scott Zipadelli.
There's so many.
Yeah, I mean, and Dave Rogers. Reunited with Dave Rogers. I think that was probably the one crew chief that however Kyle Busch tried to attack, that was the one guy where it just seemed to roll off his shoulders. And I think that relationship went so far back between those two that's why it just rolled off of Rogers. Rogers, remember, he was an in-house talent that come all the way from sweeping floors, similar to Stevie Letarte, and was part of the beginning days of the Toyota and Joe Gibbs together partnership. And so I'm not sure. I think he's crew chief in one of Joe Gibbs's.
He's part of the Xfinity program.
Xfinity series, right. But and look, I said Scott Zipadelli just because he's really never been given the real chance to crew chief, but it also made me think about where in the heck is Greg Zipadelli? Talk about the name that we just completely forgot once Stewart-Haas Racing shut down, and knowing that that the organization itself needs a true leader behind the helm. Greg Zipadelli may be a great asset for RCR to really get things back in motion there, but I don't know where he's at. I haven't heard his name in a while. Does anybody have?
Yeah, no, that was one I hadn't heard, and I'm trying to think. Ross Chastain
He's been
was
working
thinking
with Rhett Jones Racing as the team's vice president of business operations.
Yeah, okay. He's kind of more on the business side. I wouldn't expect him to be back as a crew chief. He's not even had any dealings with this style car or anything on the crew chief side. But as I said, Dave Rogers, I think, would be a good one. Cole Pern, depending on if he's got the itch to come back. I really put a lot of success of that Furniture Racing team on the back of Cole Pern and what he was able to envision with that small team, and made the little things work really well. You always kind of kick a micromanager because the name itself sounds pretty annoying. You're going to micromanage everything. But if you look at the best in the elite, they've always said that preparation is everything. And that's something that a micromanager, he's going to be prepared because he's involved that way. And I think that Cole Pern could really come in and change some dynamics there of the Richard Childress Racing Group. There's old heads that are still there at Richard Childress Racing who still believe that the old way is the best way and any other way is the highway. And you've got to come in a lot of times and you've got to, offer early retirements for some of those guys as you're trying to regroup and revamp the future of Richard Childress Racing. Because as much as we love Richard Childress, he's now at the latter end of his life, and it's going to be left up to Ty and Austin to carry the Childress name, and I guess Mike Dillon and his wife as well. I don't know how much part that that there are of the core group there at Children's Racing, but I would almost figure Mike Dillon has a pretty high job there. So, it's going to be up to those guys to actually carry the ship. And you need to start putting those type of leaders in position now to carry them over into the next couple of decades for Richard Childress Racing. I think a move to get Scott Zipadelli. I vote right now. Go get Greg Zipadelli as your team manager, and go grab either Cole Pern or Dave Rogers as the crew chief for Kyle Busch. And
I like the idea of Dave Rogers because they already have a communication link and they understand each other. And I think Dave Rogers would be an excellent fit. The other ones, you have to develop that with somebody like Kyle Busch and everything. So I like the idea of Dave Rogers. But we're just speculating here again, which is okay. I mean, I have no problem with that, but it's just that, man, so much can change between what's said today and what happens tomorrow.
Right.
I hate to go back to the previous one, but I just came across something and it excites me. This one has 4 drivers to the link to the Kaulig's Ram trucks: McFarland, Breidinger, Daniel Dye, and then Brenden Queen. And I know All Sports All Day mentioned Brenden Queen. Again, I don't care what you say. I think Daniel Dye, I like it.
Hasn't he been around for like 10 years?
Daniel Dye.
No, he's like 19 years old. He did 2 years maybe in ARCA.
Really?
And he had his moments in ARCA of he had to grow up.
Yeah, he had some growing moments.
Yeah, situations, but I don't know. I don't know that I see him going back to trucks other than to get into the pipeline, if you will, with Dodge, because he moved from the trucks into the Xfinity. But
21.
Yeah. Is he 21? Okay. I wasn't sure if he was that old. I remember because I think he was 18 years old when he had his situation with his best friend. They were horsing around and it got out of hand. Yeah.
It was immature.
So going back to the crew chief thing, though, like I said, I think there are a lot of possibilities out there. I don't know that Cole Pern, that's another one of, he said, I'm done, and he disappeared as much. There's 2 sides to that, just like we were talking about drivers. You got to have the new ones develop versus keep going back to the well of the old ones that used to work. We just saw that with Grant Enfinger be like, hey, him and Jeff Stankiewicz been together forever, but we're in the playoffs and it's not working. Sometimes Dale Jr. and what's his cousin name? Tony Uri Jr. Sometimes Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson. So sometimes you do have to have a complete fresh start with somebody new. However, there's some good arguments to be made. Y'all talking about Dave Rogers. We see that because of the success they had. Can they rekindle that? The thing that kind of throws me here is, and maybe we got to look at this a little differently. I know I'm not the only one, but I will put it on myself. Kyle Busch being a better driver than Austin Dillon. So if they are making improvements, why are we not seeing it from Kyle Busch's team versus we kind of have been more so from Austin Dillon? That's kind of a curious thing. But there again, it might just be that Dillon can adapt to this car, whereas it seems like Kyle Busch has struggled to adapt to this car, his driving style to this car. So
we said that was probably going to happen, that the newer guys would adapt much more quickly than some of the older guys. Some of the older guys did adapt, though, I think. I think Martin Truex adapted to it pretty well.
And I think we're starting to see Chase Elliott, too. He was another one that kind of maybe struggled with it. I think we're seeing that he's back in playoff contention. And, again, not winning races every other race like we maybe saw before, but certainly a lot closer to the front than we had in a while.
Okay. Follow-up, Chris?
Yeah, just think about Austin Dillon has 2 wins to Kyle Busch's none.
That's true.
Wow. What a world we live in.
It's a kind of a surprising head scratcher. Anything more from you, Jay? Are we ready for the next one?
No, I'm going to leave that one alone. Yeah.
Okay. How about this one? Legacy Motor Club and Ware Racing settle out of court.
I got a question. Does anybody understand what that one was even really about and how it worked out? I know they haven't released what the settlement is, but I do know this. It's good news for RFK, at least for 1 year, because they're going to lease the number 60 for Priest again next year. How it works between Legacy, I just don't even understand it. But if everybody's happy and we're out of court, I'm happy.
My understanding is that they thought it was going to be for the 2026 season, and Rick Ware came back and said no, they thought it was going to be for the 27 season. So they've sat down and rehashed all that and come to an agreement. It is going to be for the 26 season now.
So how many?
2027.
How many charters does Rick Ware Racing have?
It's going to be for the 2027 season. So basically, when you look at it in layman terms, the original deal that was supposed to be the deal, which was the charter will go to Legacy Motor Club in 2027. That is the deal that was struck in the settlement. And RFK gets to carry Cody Ware's
right. They have to switch which one they're leasing.
Right. Next season. So RFK will still lease one of RWR's charters. Now, what this does put into question is, of course, what does RFK do in 2027 for the third charter? And does this mean that the $100 million deal done between Rick Ware Racing and the former Spire owner, I can't think of his name right now,
TJ Pusher?
Yeah, does that mean that deal is now null and void? And I believe that deal may be null and void, and we just have not had any clarification of that yet. But what I do know for sure is that Legacy Motor Club is purchasing Rick Ware Racing's charter, but they will not receive that charter until the 2027 race season, which means Rick Ware will still have one charter to race next season, and that's good news for Rick Ware Racing.
And then in 2027, because at that point RFK can't lease any more from them.
Right. So RFK is either going to have to purchase a charter and or subsidize and go down to a 2-race team,
or run it as an open team. Yeah. Okay. That
could fall right into Brad Keselowski retiring and RFK going back to a 2-car team. My biggest surprise right now is what Ford's going to do for an Xfinity team next year, because that's still news that I don't think anybody knows what's going on with Haas leaving. So there's a lot of questions on that, on what, and of course Ford doesn't want to lose a chartered race team for their organization. One way or the other, Rick Ware was still racing Ford, so and I believe those two shops are tied together anyway, the RFK and the Rick Ware Racing. So it's going to be a big, I'm looking to see what the deal with the Jay Posher, whatever his name is, the dealing with Rick Ware, because honestly, I celebrated the $100 million deal, and it looks like that's not going to happen. So I don't know.
Well, but there it ties into the rest, and that's where I said this was, to me, the biggest thing was they were out of court and settled. They all acted like adults and talked it out and worked out a deal instead of dragging it out for 2+ years. But down the road, that's where these other charters will come into play, whether NASCAR creates some more or gives some more out, whatever, I don't know. But yeah, for now, I'm just happy that it's out of court.
And the fact that
Sharon's reading the documents.
A 3-car race team. Sorry, Jay.
And that's where I was trying to decide, because like I said, I never saw anything that gave what the settlement was, because we're talking about Corey Haim.
Confidential. So that's why I'm so surprised that you're saying that you know it for sure.
RFK did come out and say they were guaranteed to be able to lease one of RWRs next year.
Yeah.
So that there's one of them gone. They're going to race the other one, which means Legacy can't have one because there was only two.
And Legacy come out after the court and said, like, look, this was a good deal for us because it's so late into the season. Trying to put together a third charter and a third race team was going to add added stress to the organization. So this is great to be able to sit back and wait for 2027. So the push was earlier in the year to get that third team by Legacy Motor Club. But of course, being this late in the date, they said at the end of court that it was going to work out well for them based off of where we are already in the season.
I really wondered though, and like I said, if Legacy doesn't get it next year, that'd be mute. But because I kind of felt like maybe that was where Corey Heim would be, although not directly 2311. Or he goes to 2311 and Riley Herbst comes over as a Toyota driver.
Says, while the matter has been resolved amicably, to the satisfaction of both parties, the terms of the settlement remain confidential. That was on September 19th, which was just last week. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, that's why I said I didn't find anything from those two teams. What I did hear was from RFK saying they were getting to lease one more year for Ryan Preece.
Was that on X?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm still looking here, so. If you guys can go ahead and talk about something else if you want.
I don't have a whole lot more to say because like I said, I'm just happy they're out of court. that was the biggest thing. And for me, it's set that example of, hey, we disagree, but we can work it out and not have to drag it through everything that the other one is going through of that. I know, Sharon, you keep saying you have hope that at the last hour, NASCAR and 2311 are going to do that. I'm just not seeing that hope. I'm really not.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to, neither one of them is going to move an inch until it is the last minute, I don't think. Okay, so Chris just sent me something. So, hold on. Let me see if I can get it here. I can't read it, but okay. And where is this from? Racer Magazine? Okay. Under the terms of the confidential terms of agreement, Legacy Motor Club will acquire the charter from RWR. Legacy will postpone its plans to expand to a 3-car operation until 27th season. RWR will use its remaining charter to field its number 51 car during the 26th season. The charter previously leased to RWR to RFK Racing will remain with RFK for the 26th season, honoring that agreement. So it sounds like Legacy Motor Club made the concession on this.
But maybe had to pay less than for the deal to be done, because that would be the other half. If they're giving something, they're going to get something back. Where did you say that came from then?
Racer Racing News.
Okay, because I'd only heard the RFK part. I hadn't heard the official on the other, but I knew that had to be the way it was going to work because you couldn't have both.
From Kelly Crandall? Chris?
Do I know?
Does Kelly Crandall write for them?
I'm not sure. I just got a kind of a bundle there.
Okay. Yeah, I had not seen it that explicitly stated anywhere. So So that's a compilation of different sources. Is that what you're saying? I think we lost Chris.
I was going to say, yeah, he looks frozen, but yeah, I'm not sure what the source on that is, but that is the first where I'd seen that breakdown. Like I said, I'd seen RFK's statement that they were going to be able to lease theirs, and if Rick Ware Racing was still going to race one, they only have two. The assumption was that somehow or another Legacy had agreed to wait. Like I said, I would assume there's some compensation or less of a payment when they do buy it then for 2027. And that's probably the part that's confidential, still remaining confidential then, is how much less they're going to play.
How much? Yeah.
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 Did Chris come back in? Don't leave us, Chris. Actually, we're probably wrapped up for the night or close to it here. There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Kelly Crandall.
To it, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Kelly.
Okay,
Kelly
it was
Crandall.
Kelly.
Yeah.
That's
good
what I
call on
thought. Okay. We've got the only two left are the ARCA driver Brenden Queen to the number 11 for Kaulig Racing at Kansas next week. And the other one is playoff predictions for the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. Do we want to do that?
You know, the Brenden Queen to Kaulig, and that kind of leads into whether or not he's going to be in the Truck Series for him. I know that's kind of where that first came from. I think he deserves a shot at an Xfinity ride of, you know, how they pick and choose that. I know that always varies, but I'm happy to see him and get a shot, see how he does. And again, I think it is leading to that. They're building a partnership with Kaulig, and if that leads to the Truck Series, so be it. I certainly think he's ready for it.
And it could be that is Kaulig going to race Xfinity for next year?
Yes.
Yeah, they as far as I know, because again, remember they have a 3-car team. They pulled Josh Williams out of that 11. They were trying to their spot fill in that 11 for the rest of the year since Josh Williams got pulled out.
Okay, so they're going to race. They're going to continue with Xfinity in Chevy, but they're going to race Dodge in trucks. Okay. So that's interesting. It sounds to me like they're looking at Brenden Queen for Xfinity Series. Is what it sounds like to me, but I could be wrong.
I can I can see a jump.
Either into that the 11 team, because like I said, I know that one needs to be filled now, or again, whether it be the trucks. But there you go. At least on the young talent side, I know we're still looking for the veteran though. Of if you're looking for Dodge as a whole, future Xfinity and Cup, hopefully that Brenden Queen might be the Dodge guy, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Chris?
I'm completely up for it. As I said, you want to invest into future talent, and right now, Brenden Queen looks like a sure bet right now for upcoming talent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's been doing really well in the ARCA Menards series. And yeah, I think it's good that Kaulig is looking at him. And whether it's Dodge at some point in the future or trucks at some point, it's yet to be determined. But Brenden McQueen is going to be good for wherever he goes. But for him to be testing, testing the waters, if you will, with Kaulig Racing this weekend at Kansas, I think is good. And then what about playoff predictions? Do we want to do that, or we want to hold off on that?
Well, somebody made a prediction at the beginning of the year that Chandler Smith was going to take the Truck Series championship. So I don't think we want to talk about that. He gave it everything he had. He gave it everything he had.
He did give it everything he had. But yeah, Chandler Smith is out at this point. Him and Jake Garcia.
I think the trucks, I mean, it's been that way all year. If anybody has a shot at knocking Heim off, it's Lane Riggs. And I know he's already talking too about this, that he may move into the Xfinity series. So this is his shot at it. You know, he didn't get in last year, but won races in the playoffs. I think he's another very talented driver. We'll see how he does when he gets in to some regular Xfinity series driving, if he does. But I think the truck championship is, barring something wild, talent or what we've seen so far this year, it's between the two of them.
Okay. For the championship. So who are your final four predictions?
That one for the truck series or the cup? Xfinity and cup, I still think are pretty much wide open. You have some heavier favorites on the Xfinity. Obviously, you got to put in Connor Zilic, Justin Allgaier as two of your four. On the cup side, you have to put in, I think, Denny Hamlin, unless this implosion continues. From there, I don't know that you can, because we haven't seen anybody else. You know, right now you say Ryan Blaney for a multitude of reasons. It's what Penske does. He's got the momentum going. The other two, again, I feel like that we don't see a big three or anything where you can lock anybody else in. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, man. It would be an uneducated guess between the truck series and the Xfinity series for me right now. I think that, it looks a little bit more clear when you look at the top 8 that's sitting there in the Cup Series points. You know, no big surprises about who's who. And, if you were to pick your top 4 right now, it's going to be a toss-up between Kyle Larson and William Byron. I'm not really sure I'm willing to lock in both of them. I think that Toyota has the advantage right now. They would probably be the stable where you would have two guys coming out of the Toyota stable right now that are going to be in the final 4. I think, of course, that would be Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell. And then, of course, over on the Ford side, it's a toss-up between Larson and Byron. And then it's another toss-up between Blaney and Logano. And I think right now the momentum sides with Blaney. We just have not seen Logano clicking yet. And it's, we're halfway through the playoffs, and there's still really not the signs that they're on fire yet. That could change at Kansas. And that could change most definitely at a place like Talladega or something like that, if he makes it into that round. But Ryan Blaney seems to be coming in with a lot of head of steam based off of what we've seen in the last championships. The last, 4 championships have gone through Penske. So until that's broken, I'm just going to have to ride with Blaney. And I think it's going to be Hamlin and Bell and somewhere between Larson and Byron.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of am thinking the same thing there. I'll start with the Cup Series. Ryan Blaney, right now, William Byron is second, Kyle Larson is third, and Christopher Bell is fourth. I don't know. You got to think Denny Hamlin's going to get in there. But the way he's been shooting himself in the foot here, it's very possible that could be your 4. I would say actually it's between William Byron and Denny Hamlin at this point. And Joey Logano really wants it too. It's not going to surprise me if Joey Logano doesn't get in there either. But right now he's below that top 4. So we'll see what happens. Some of these tracks coming up could be good for Hendrick. So we'll see.
Well, and they need it.
I did read that Kyle Larson is not doing any other racing right now. He's solely focused on his Cup racing. So that's why he was showing such a big improvement, I think, at New Hampshire. So that's kind of interesting too. So I think Kyle Larson's going to be in there.
Don't you love it how they just try to sell us? Well, now he's completely focused on Cup racing, so we're going to see a lot better Kyle Larson racing.
Yeah,
like, really?
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, that's your excuse because he showed up this last week. Oh, well, it's because he's not being distracted by all these other things. Yeah, okay. All right.
So he shouldn't be distracted all season long, right?
Right. I mean, you know.
Honestly, I think that's part of what their contract deal was, that during the playoffs, because again, if you're racing something else, you run the risk of getting hurt. And if you are now make it into the playoffs, you certainly don't want to get pulled out or, you know, have to miss something there. I think that's always been part of the deal throughout the season. We'll take that chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But during the playoffs, not so much.
Well, I just want to understand the precedent that's being set, that it's okay to not do well and not focus on cup racing during the regular season because you get a couple wins and you're padded and you can go do whatever you want to, but make sure you show back up for the playoffs. I don't think that sets the right precedent. And it really, I mean, you know, he doesn't have a real sponsor. It's Papa Hendrick writing a check for him. So he doesn't have to impress any sponsors in the Cup Series, you know, so. I guess you can get away with that type of foolishness.
Well, that's the way it's set up, and I think it does set a bad precedence, though. I mean, if I was a Kyle Larson fan and I paid to go to see a race and watch him race, and he's just kind of riding around, I don't like it.
Right. All right. Neither did Junior Johnson with Cale Yarbrough. May I remind y'all? There's a reason why Cale Yarbrough was basically fired from the 11 car back many, many years ago. That gave Darrell Waltrip the chance to sit in that seat because Cale went to Junior Johnson and said, I'm not going to run the full series. I've got other things that I want to do. And Junior Johnson said, well, not on my watch.
I just want to point out that is somebody, and I'll say media, but outside perspective, that Kyle Larson was not focused on Cup Series throughout the season. Of that, and that was why he wasn't doing well. That is not a proven fact. That is a perspective as to why he was struggling.
Well, it's a potential possibility.
Yeah,
and I agree with that, but
you can analyze athletes.
No, I mean, just because you said you're setting the precedent that it's okay to not focus on the Cup side during the season. Nobody.
That's what the media said, though. That's
why I just wanted that clear. It's a perspective from the media.
The broadcasters said it on television this week, so
yeah,
like that was supposed to be a big significant because he was only focused on Cup racing. So that really said a lot about what they were implying, that basically throughout the year he hasn't been paying attention or hasn't been focused on Cup racing. He's had other things that he's been focused on. So look how great and talented this driver is. He can start the season in Cup, go do other things, and then come back and win a championship. And I just really don't think that that's the right way, or you know how that's gonna catapult him into a championship at the end of the year to just go ahead now and start buckling in and getting it figured out. I really don't think. I think he's been focused. I think he's hit a string of bad luck. I think that he's over raced the race car. I think that you know, sometimes you got to slow down to go fast, and you know, every big talent in this sport hits a hiccup somewhere, and that's what we've seen out of Kyle this year. We haven't seen the dominant Kyle Larson that we've seen in the past, have we, guys?
No, because he's been distracted.
It's human nature, and I'll say that it's human nature to always find the problem, right? You know, again, like you said, Chris, just bad luck. I mean, some of it was mistakes as to why he made that mistake of hitting
those mistakes because
hit Blaney. I highly doubt when he hit Ryan Blaney it was because he was thinking he was at a dirt track in Iowa, but you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm not inside Kyle Larson's head.
I mean, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, all these guys have had heavy race schedules, and none of them were focused on winning Xfinity championships and running for Cup championships too. So I don't know. It just seems like that's just kind of an excuse the media throws out to cover Kyle Larson.
See, but on the other side, they defend Kyle Busch running in the Xfinity and trucks because they said that does keep him focused and better at his skills. So I'm like, You can't have it both ways.
That's a great point, Jay. I'm glad you brought that up. That's awesome.
There's my black helicopter. I'm gonna bring one in tonight. It's against they are against dirt track and sprint car racing, and that's why they want to bag on Kyle Larson.
Okay,
they're anti-sprint car.
In the Xfinity series, The top 8 right now are the top 4 right now are Connor Zilic, Justin Allgaier, Sam Mayer, and Carson Cavapel. And I would have to say the only one that I think possibly get up in there is Sheldon Creed, because he's Mr. Number 2 all the time. I'm surprised he's not in that top 4. But I think the top 4 that are there right now are going to be the top 4 when we get to Phoenix. And in the truck series, the top 4 right now are Corey Heim, Lane Riggs, Daniel Hemrick, and Ty Majeski. And that's a good top 4. The only one here that I think could possibly fool us is Grant Enfinger. I think Grant Enfinger could possibly race his way up in there, but it's going to be at somebody's expense. And I hate to see that too, because I like seeing the top 4 where it is now. So
yeah, the only one so far that like I said, I think is still really wide open is the Xfinity, with the exception of the top 2. On the Cup side, when you guys were talking about that, this was one, I think it was last week that was kind of the topic throughout the week on SiriusXM of, could we see a non-Hendrick top championship 4? If you were to throw in the third Toyota, because last week it was, Chase Briscoe has the momentum. He's a sleeper. He's going to get in. Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin. Then you throw in a Ford, whether it be Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano. Well, you're full, and Hendrick hadn't showed up. Now it's, Hendrick will get one of the 2 in there, and I do think they have a shot at it. But I do think it's kind of a wide open deal. Certainly don't see any big 3, let alone even with the exception of Hamlin. If you just go by consistent wins throughout the year, he does still have the most wins. Kyle Larson had the 3, but as did Bell early in the year, and then just now coming back. Everybody's kind of peaking at the right time. I think it could be a slugfest at, say, even Talladega, Kansas, and then Martinsville. Somebody going to need to throw that Hail Melon. You got to have 2 spots. Go get it.
Well, and it is going to be interesting, because Hendrick does have the potential to have William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott up there. But that would be at the expense of Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin. I think Ryan Blaney's going to make it. And Joey Logano wants to get in there too. But this isn't, somebody pointed out to me, this is an odd year.
Yeah, I hadn't said it yet, but that was in my head. Yeah, this isn't an even year. Logano only comes up in even years.
Yep. Okay, so I think that pretty much closes it out for the night. So let's go ahead and go around the horn. Chris, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Chris Yellow Caution Flag Creighton on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. You can find me at Flag of Caution. You can find me at Flag of Caution on Twitter and Flag of Caution on TikTok. You can find me at a dirt track about every other weekend during the season. Why Not Motors? Huh?
I said, we can find you just about anywhere.
Yeah, I'll be at Why Not Motorsports Park. Look, we got the Fall Classic coming up. I think it's about a month away. Looking forward to that. It's the 31st annual Coors Light Fall Classic. Mr. Charles Thrash does a great deal for the super late models. It's one of the last non-sanctioned big super late model races. Hopefully we'll have a big crowd, a lot of cars from all over the place. And that's coming up I think the 24th through the 26th, maybe it's the 25th through the 27th. Sorry about that, Charles. I'll make sure I got that a little bit better in hand next time. But we were looking forward to that. And then we'll have the Street Stock, Crate Racing USA World Street Stock Championship. That is the weekend. I think it's the 6th through the 8th of November. So that'll be a pretty big deal. $8,000 to win for the Street Stocks in that deal. So my season's about done, and looking forward to eating some chicken and dumplings and some red beans and rice and getting all fat for Christmas, and then start back on that Weight Watchers program January 1st. But thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my opinions and my black helicopter theories here on Fan4Racing, Miss Sharon. And I do enjoy the the friendship and the partnership that Jay and I share, not only within the racing community on the dirt tracks, but also the playful banner that we have here on Fan4Racing Radio. So appreciate you, buddy.
Chris, did you have a top 4 for all 3 series?
No, I just really, I think that Connor Zilic is probably going to get his heart broke. Something's going to happen. I was trying to figure out what was the Gibbs car that typically Gibbs has a really strong Xfinity Series team, but I think this year it's just been
Brenden Jones.
Who is it? Brenden Jones? Is he in contention for the?
He's 6th right now.
He's in there, yeah.
Yeah, he's not. He's just kind of so. So
the other one is Taylor Gray. But
Taylor Gray, yeah, and he's not doing too well either, is he?
He's 8th.
He's 8th. Okay, yeah. So I don't know, man. It's probably going to come down to Allgaier. So, it's going to be something to not see the 11 truck or the 88 car in the Xfinity Series, in the 11 truck in the Craftsman Truck Series, not win the championship after having such a stellar year on both sides. But that's the risk we take. And look, we didn't even talk about the crowd upon crowd that really seems to be against this point structure that we've got right now. And really, I feel like NASCAR fans are digging themselves a grave by trying to get something changed that's not necessarily broke.
I agree.
So, it's just going to be, look, sometimes the guy who with the most wins the championship. For the most times, they don't. So, I think that's what we're going to see in the truck series. Hopefully Corey Heim will pull it off, but I really feel like Justin Allgaier is kind of the favorite there in the Xfinity Series. So we'll see how that falls. Those are my predictions for those 2 championships. So I'll bite the bullet there at the end if I have to.
Okay, Jay, you're next.
Chris predicting a lot of heartbreak, yeah. And it does happen. Like I said, I think in the trucks lane, Riggs is the one that could be the one to break Corey Himes from that aspect. I don't know about Connor Zilic. I think so far I think his heartbeat's pretty strong. I think he'll be all right. But you can follow me on Facebook, Michael Hoosman, Mopar MJ8 on Twitter and Instagram. And believe it or not, this week I'm going to try and chill and just hang out a little bit. Last week doing 3 different county fairs and then coming home for a day and going back to Tennessee for motocross. I am wore out. So, and Jackson Motor Speedway, our season is wrapping up with our final race of the year here coming up this Saturday. It'll be just weekly racing. We had the Hurricane Area Super Sprints. Still working with, I got her name now, representative for Chase Howard. Should be able to set something up this week. Following his 14th place, I believe, is where he ended up at Salem in the ARCA Menards series. So looking to get with them and get that done this week. But like I said, this week, you aren't going to see or hear a whole lot of me out of social media because, like I said, I'm going to take the week a down week.
All right, and I'm Fan4Racing Sharon here. Fan4Racing blog and radio on Facebook. And our website, fan4racing.com, on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now. I am known as at Fan4Racing site. So definitely looking forward to the weekend of racing that's coming up, and enjoyed the weekend of racing that just went by. So I can't wait for next week to come up. Jay and I are going to be doing the previews. I think 4 races this week with NASCAR Xfinity and Cup Series racing, as well as the ARCA Menards Series and the ARCA West. So, and then hopefully Taz and I will be able to do our fantasy report. We got one in last Friday. See if we can get 2 in a row going here. So looking forward to that as well. So hope you guys have a great week. And we'll see everybody on as we do our previews.
Everybody, bye.
Okay. Take care, everybody.